All right, so this problem looks really crazy, and the SAT loves to give you problems that look really crazy but are only slightly challenging. I'm pretty positive that once I go through this, you'll see like you have all the skills to do this problem and it's not that hard. But because of all these different letters and shapes and weird stuff, they made it look really hard. So first thing, what are they actually asking you to do? Well, it gives you this formula above, and then it tells you a bunch of blah, blah, blah nonsense that really doesn't matter. And it just tells you which of the following gives R in terms of this. So all they're asking you to do is to get R by itself. That's it. So like all of this doesn't matter. It's just nonsense. You just got to get R by itself. Then they use the shapes. We never use shapes, but math does use shapes sometimes. And these subnotations and stuff, it's all complicated looking. When things are complicated looking, one thing that you can do, and this might confuse you more, and I hope it doesn't, but you can turn these into something that looks way less complicated. We could make this an X if we want. So let's do that. Let's say that that weird little shape that we have, what's it look like? I don't even know, like that. Let's just call that X. M1, M2, well, those are multiplying together. You could think of it as like A, B if you wanted to, or you could think of them as one thing. Let's do it like that. So let's think of M1 as A. Let's think of M2 as B. All this is going to do is make this look a little bit less complicated. So we have F then equals X times AB over R squared. Okay. Now we still have a lot of letters and still have a lot to do. We want to get R by itself. It's in the bottom of a fraction. Okay, this is all a little bit weird looking. So what do you need to do? Well, let's just think about this. We need to get R by itself. Anytime you have R or whatever you're trying to find in the denominator of a fraction, you can't get it by itself if it's in the denominator of a fraction because it's always going to be tied to that top. So you have to get it out of the denominator. And how do you do that? Well, you simply multiply it out. Okay. And let me show you why that works. Because remember, if you do it to one side of an equation, you can do it to the other. So that's how this all works. You just have to do the same thing to both sides. Because now what you have is R squared times R squared, or divided by R squared, and then a times R squared. Well, this is really like R squared divided by R squared now. They cancel each other out that way. Because you have division and you have multiplication, they're opposites, they cancel out. Okay, they equal 1, so that's why they cancel. So that's the first step, is you need to multiply both sides by R squared. Now you have this weird looking thing over here, and that's okay. Don't freak out because something looks weird right now. Equals, now you just have XAB. Okay. Well, we're trying to get R by itself, so we're going to continue here. We have R over here. It's R squared times F. Well, we need to get rid of that F. Well, it's multiplying by F, so we're going to divide by F. Right? Well, if you do it to this side, you have to do it to this side. You have to divide everything by F because that's how that works. You have to divide everything on this side by that once you divide. Okay, those cancel out. R squared equals, okay, and there's nothing you can simplify, so you're just kind of building up things over here. XAB divided by F. Okay, finally you have R squared. Well, how do you get rid of a squared? What is the opposite of a squared? And maybe you remember this from last year, maybe not, but it's a square root. Squared and square roots cancel each other out. But you have to square root this whole side over here as well. So those will cancel out. And what are you left with? Well, finally, you're left with just an R. Equals the square root of XAB over F. So you're just really, every time you're doing something, you're just adding more things to this side. And that's okay, because if you look at all your answers, they all look like that. They all look kind of weird like that. Now, the only thing is that, we switch some of these things around so that we can work with them. The X, the A, and the B aren't really there. So let's just go and switch those back now. So we know that the R is going to stay the same. We know that the square root is going to stay the same. The X was our little weird, stupid symbol. I don't know what that's even called. Looks something like that. Then we had A, which was our M1. And then our B, which was M2, divided by F. And which one of those answers looks like that? That would be this one. Okay. So go through that again if you need a second, or but you're going to see this all the time where you need to, if what you're trying to get by itself is in the denominator, you need to multiply